was fucking... Oh, that was abysmal. That was fucking awful. Alright, well...
So there was at a famous university a philosophy professor with some very quirky ideas. He was a flat earth solipsist, and one day he happened to give a very passionate lecture on that topic. A couple weeks later, he receives a letter in the mail from a woman who attended that lecture, and the letter goes something along those lines. Oh, dear professor, your lecture was truly thrilling. I do not understand why there aren't more flat earth solipsists around the world. Solipsism is, of course, the belief that only you exist in the world. Probably should have started with that.
It still didn't get any better after my second time hearing it.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Now the audience will be confused why you're saying still, because we time traveled, they didn't.
Welcome back to another episode of the Promethean Onion. This is Tea and Biscuits. I'm your host, Bobby.
I'm Misha.
There's Misha. This is the third take today of this episode.
This is the second take of the second try of this Tea and Biscuits episode. This is a cursed episode, I'm saying. It really is.
The first time around was around midday we recorded. It was an hour long. My file got corrupted. So here we are at 9 p.m. We started this recording again because I just went on a completely silly 5-minute tangent of a Yes Minister episade, which had absolutely no conclusion. It was just there you go.
Yes, we had a story about trade unions, and he remembered an episode about trade unions, so I had to tell the whole episode as a summary.
Yeah. So what we're doing today is essentially we scrolled Reuters and we found articles that sounded interesting to talk about. 2 articles today we're doing are U.S. Supreme Court to hear dispute over Starbucks firing pro-union workers, and something to do with Pfizer getting sued by Texas.
Pfizer is sued by Texas over COVID vaccine claims. Those are
we're going to start
headlines.
with the U.S. Supreme Court ones. Wait, are they both? No. Yeah, the Starbucks thing. Let's start with the Starbucks thing. So I'll read out the first paragraph. The U.S. Supreme Court on Friday agreed to hear a challenge by Starbucks to a judicial decision that required the coffee chain to rehire 7 employees at one of its cafes in Memphis, Tennessee, who a federal agency determined were fired for supporting unionization. Yeah. Also, let me turn off my fan real quick. Sorry.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of it.
Shut the fuck up. So I'm real tired of this. Yeah. I won't go on my Yes Minister rant now, but I will mention that there is a very funny Yes Minister episode to do with worker unions and hospital closures, so go check that out.
Yes, go check out every Yes Minister episode. It's the best show that I've seen.
One of my favorite shows ever. Yeah. All right, Misha, say what you want to say.
Right. So, what we're going to talk about isn't really the article itself, as a jumping off point to talk about the interaction of trade unions and the law. So, there are 2 aspects to it. There is the moral aspect and the legal aspect. And let's start with the legal aspect, because there it's pretty cut and dry. In no developed country can a worker be fired with the reason for firing being that he is a member of a trade union, or that he advocated and agitated for that trade union. Not even in the US. And since we are recording for a second time, now you know why the US is a significant case to bring out separately for this.
Yeah. Because the US is one of the only countries where you have, I forgot the name, but where you can fire someone. Yes, at will employment, where you can fire someone without a reason as to why you're doing so.
Yeah, but interestingly, there are exceptions to at will employment. So, in the vast majority of countries, you need a reason to fire someone. So, back in Hungary, if I want to fire someone, I mean, usually I'll have him sign a resignation letter. Easiest thing for both of us. If not, I have to find an actual reason to fire him, and there is a list of accepted reasons. It must be one of those. So, if I want to fire a worker for lateness, you need to document 10 separate times when he was late by at least 10 minutes, or one time when he was late by 3 hours or more. Ridiculous. That's a topic for another day. But in the US, if you don't want a worker working for you, that's good enough reason to fire him. Well, there are reasons for which you cannot fire a worker written in law, and it's different in every state. But every state in the US has trade unions as one of those reasons. You can't fire a worker for being a member of a trade union.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And I won't go on my Yes Minister rant. I promise.
That's the third time this episode you've promised not to go on that rant. I'm starting to get scared.
I mean, do I have anything to say to that? I mean, it's real late. This is a really cursed episode. I think. Can you fill in the? You say stuff. I don't know. I've got nothing
okay,
right now.
Mr. Wet Sock.
Shut up! I'm thinking. Okay.
I'm sorry. I mean, the reasons for why such laws came about is pretty interesting, because it seems to be an overcorrection for a legitimate problem in the past. So, in the past, trade unions were, bless you, treated with quite poorly. So, for example, have you heard of, it's pretty famous, the Detroit Ford massacre? It's,
No.
I read about it recently because I was doing a bit of reading on Henry Ford. Very interesting figure, Henry Ford. Guy could not read, for one, and became one of the most successful businessmen and engineers in the world. Yeah. There was, I told you about it, a court case where he was a part of, and he was asked to read, he was on the witness stand and was asked to read a few documents. First day, he said he forgot his spectacles. Second day, he said he was tired. Third day, he ran out of excuses and had to admit that he never learned to read. How ridiculous is that?
We should just rename this podcast to Misha's podcast. It's just you talking all the time. Even my mom said this to me. She's like, you know, Bobby, like, I listened to one of your episodes. It was just Misha yapping. I didn't hear you once.
I mean, it's your mom's filter. She probably hears enough of you in her own life that she just kind of filters you out of the podcast.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks. Carry on your Henry Ford tangent.
Okay. I mean, jump in, right? This is turning out into a bit of a Misha episode, goddammit. You're not wrong about it.
Hello, and welcome to the Misha's World podcast. Today we discuss tomatoes, Byzantine coins, and how they're all connected with me and my friends. And my friends. Just one sec, I'll be back. Hello? Y'all? Where are you? Hello? Ayo? Ayo? Well, looks like in this town I don't have any friends.
I don't have any.
I'm not a big fan of Misha episodes.
I don't have any trivia on hand. The only thing I'm like occupied with at the moment is just math. I'm really boring otherwise. I can talk about math. But no one wants to hear about that at all. I don't think on the internet.
Okay.
It's very niche corner. So what's this Ford massacre?
Right. So Henry Ford was basically the unofficial mayor of Detroit.
Really?
Yes, he had meetings with the mayor every day. He funded a large number of public works in Detroit, and there were more Ford security guards than there were policemen in Detroit.
That's funny.
And
okay.
Yeah. So his workers decided to not only go on strike, but to have their strike right in front of the Ford factory. And so Ford runs up to the mayor, announces that there's going to be violence at the factory despite no evidence for it. And both the police, under direction of the mayor, and Ford's security guards just end up firing at the workers.
Whoa, so it's a literal massacre.
Yeah. I mean, there's more context to it because the workers did seem in a violent mood beforehand, and they were quite verbally aggressive towards the employees. But yeah, basically, it's 90% of the way towards an unjustified massacre.
Damn.
So you can see, and that wasn't a one-off case, by the way. It was the worst case in American history, but there were plenty of cases where the factory security guards would beat up workers with batons and stuff like that. So there's a reason why they needed while they felt they needed some sort of protection for unions.
I know a case, not in the U.S., but banana. What were you called?
Banana republics.
That one company, United, it's not called United Banana.
I know the one, Chiquita.
Its predecessor, before they rebranded. What were they called? Let me look this up.
United Bananas. How does that sound like the fakest company ever?
Alright, United Banana. We'll call it United Banana for now because I don't remember. United Fruit Company. There we go. United Banana. So United Banana. That's what we're calling the episode. United Banana. They were essentially their own little. They were like a sub-country within the U.S. They had southern. They
weren't
Southern
within
American,
the U.S. though, were they?
They were U.S. based, but in South America they had such presence, and at one point I think even military power, that they were essentially just a kind of extension of the U.S. on Southern American soil. So it reached the point that United Banana's tyranny reached the point where their plantation workers got paid in company monopoly money.
Oh yeah, company dollars. That's another topic worth bringing up. I'm not sure how relevant it is to unions, but it's another case of fishy business practices.
Yes, and workers could only spend said company monopoly money at designated company shops and stores. So after a while, they complained, and what the Cuban government did at one point was, because they were afraid of United Banana and they were afraid of the United States, so they sent in their own army, who just so happened to also start firing on the protesting workers. So in conclusion, the worker unions are a very necessary entity,
right?
I think.
Mm-hmm. But are we so far what we said is pretty tame, so are we ready for approaching the topic from a bit of more of a controversial standpoint? Because so far we've been just fact-based.
I don't. You can't see me, can you? No. Go ahead.
No.
I'm signaling with my hands.
Oh yeah, now I can see you. Fantastic. So, I don't think that in response to this anti-union violence, legal union protections were the right response. In fact, I don't think any change in legislation was necessary. Existing legislation should have just been enforced. Because you'll notice in all the cases, I mean, I'm excluding South America because I don't know what kind of goofy laws they had back there in the days. But if we're talking about all this US-based violence, battery was illegal back then. Ordering battery was illegal. Shooting people, murder, that was all illegal. So, from a legislative standpoint, the legal system seemed perfectly equipped to deal with it. It was more of an enforcement issue than any actual legal problem. And therefore, it seemed like a massive overcorrection to add legal protection for unions. Because unions weren't being harmed, workers were being harmed, people were being harmed in those unions. And there were plenty of people protection laws already.
Well, did anyone go to trial for this? Did Henry Ford go to trial? Did anybody?
Henry Ford did not. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe a couple of the security guards went on trial and were acquitted.
Well, see, this is exactly why worker unions are needed. Well, your argument that the necessary laws were already in place to deal with this sort of stuff, just needed to be enforced, is a very simplistic way of looking at it. Because you also have this is the real world, the flesh world, the meat world, where you actually have to pursue said legal enforcement, and you have to go through the court systems, and the gears of justice must turn, and who knows how long that will take, who knows how much paper has to be pushed before that happens. So the entire point of worker unions is that there is a concrete body that can protect the right of their that can protect the rights of their workers, pursue legal action if necessary, and also be backed up in a sense by the government precisely so this sort of thing can't happen.
Right.
And they also
you presented a real issue, but then I'm not sure if the thing you said next is a solution to the issue. So what you said is that legal processes, I assume by that you mean criminal prosecutions and civil damages cases, take a lot of time and a lot of effort. And then you said unions exist, though. So could you explain to me how that solves the issue you just lined out? Is lined out even a term? Anyway.
Well, I'm not an expert on the legalities of strikes, but I'm rather certain if there are worker unions and they are and they're striking against their employers, then you can't just send out riot police to go and beat them up.
Right. I mean, I'll go further than that. Even if they're not unions, there is basically no case where you can send riot police and beat them up. So
of
again,
course there is. Well, in that case, I'm rather certain what happened was that because there was not a union, they worded it or designated it in such a way that it's just a random assortment of violent and verbally aggressive people who happen to be factory workers. So really, it was viewed as nothing else as just a riot of random people waiting to happen.
I mean, hold on there. You're half of a bit more than half of current U.S. workers are not in a union. So if you have non-union, so if you have a group of non-unionized workers who decide to go on strike, are you telling me it would be legal for me to send security guards to beat them up with batons? No.
Well, no, of course not.
That would never fly under the law. So unions here are again irrelevant.
But I think it can happen easier. That's what I'm trying to say. If they're not unionized.
So that's again a problem of enforcing the law, not of the law itself.
That was my whole point. That I'm not disputing the fact that the law's in place, but more of the thing that you need unions so this law enforcement can happen a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
right.
Yeah, like in that case, if a situation like that does happen, then the justice system will have the governments, the police forces, whoever's ass, because the unions exist. They're there to pursue that judicial redemption, and they have quite literal legal sway.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How about instead of just being abstract, we talk about specific rights that unions have?
Oh boy.
Briefly.
How long have we been recording?
Around 15 minutes.
Okay, all right. We'll make this one quick, then we'll move on to the Texas thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go on.
So, a couple of things that's really spring to mind is unions have the right to strike without consequence, essentially. So if you have a union that's on strike, you can not pay the workers for the time they're striking, but you cannot fire any of them. And the legality of hiring replacement workers is very dubious. So in some places you can hire replacement workers. In many places you can only hire temporary workers that you must furlough as soon as the strike ends. So that's one thing that springs to mind. Does that sound like a fair law to you? You have workers who refuse to work and you can't fire them. Does that sound just? Because again, I have no problem with laws that say you can't beat them with batons. That's every country in the developed world right now. But not firing them, I mean, that skews with the balance. Just as workers should have a right to strike, employers should have a right to fire them for striking. That's
I guess that that is an unfortunate flaw in the system, but I think the comparative weight of employer exploiting worker is a lot heftier than employer being undermined by employees' lack of will to work. So the case that so what I'm trying to say is that the consequences that employer exploits worker and the surrounding situations that can arise from that are a lot worse than this scenario.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, I just don't believe in exploitation in free markets.
Well, what about the counterpoint to what I just said? What about the current strikes in France, the agricultural strikes?
Yeah.
Lord knows why.
To me, the strength of workers' unions is the main reason for France's in the gutter economy, along with the massive magnitude of the welfare state.
Okay, why? Keep going on.
Right. So, French strikes. I'm not even gonna go into the French civil order laws. Suffice it to say that you saw how disruptive strikes are there. For the most part, they're perfectly legal. They can block traffic. They can break noise restrictions. They can grind industry to a halt, and that's all completely legal.
I didn't tell you what did I tell you what the farmers are doing? Like, there's videos all over the internet.
Oh, I saw the videos. They're spraying manure all over government buildings.
Which, such a French thing.
Yeah, no one was arrested for that. No one.
So I looked it up. The superficial result that I get is increased costs of farm diesel, late payment of EU subsidies, and burgeoning bureaucracy and competition from imports. So it's just
they're striking for a reduction in subsidies. They're striking because they don't get free money anymore.
Okay, all right. Cool it with the aggro. There's definitely more to this, but reason why I wanted to bring this up is because it's a counterpoint to what I'd say.
I mean, I have no problem with people striking. I need to emphasize that. So long as it's a fair power balance. Everyone has the right to strike, and I say that a mirror of that right, employers should have a right to fire for striking. So it's really not my place to judge whether French agricultural workers have a good reason for striking or not. Personally, I don't think their reason is very good, but that's neither here nor there. That should be a problem solved by the free market. If their conditions are truly bad, then the party they're negotiating with will be motivated to solve it because they're... So, as an example of what I mean, say you're running a factory and you have extremely low wages in your factory. Low relative wages, I mean. So low wages compared to other factories in the area. And all your workers go on strike. And let's assume that, as I suggested you have the right to fire them for striking. What do you do it, though? think about it. If you fire those workers and you're paying them a lot less than the competition in the area, how difficult would it be for you to find new workers? It would be near impossible. So you're very incentivized to submit to their demands, because chances are those same demands would be shared by any new workers you hire.
Well, I mean,
So-
that depends on the job flexibility very heavily. So something
What do
like
you mean?
so something like remember what that is from economics?
Yeah, I know what job flexibility
Yeah.
is. I'm just trying to see how
So,
you're linking it to the context.
Something like rather like low skilled manual labor. So I'm thinking like London 1800s industrial revolution, like fabric manufacturing plant. I can't imagine the workers there needed to know that. I don't know if they had very specialized knowledge like that took years to learn. I can't imagine, right?
Not really.
Let's say in this scenario you have these workers, so they're suddenly sick of their wages and they go on strike. In that case, the employer, I think, is rather incentivized to fire these workers because they can go out and most likely find replacements rather quickly because it's low skilled manual labor that pays.
Okay. But that's a nuanced question even there, isn't it? Because you're saying that you're assuming by your statement that you have an average textile factory in the 1800s. What if you have a textile factory that pays workers less than other textile factories in, say, London? Would it be easier for you to find workers then? Probably not. Even if you are a competitive textile factory, it would still take you multiple weeks to fill out all the slots to have them trained, maybe multiple months before you have the factory back at full efficient capacity. Is multiple months of hindrance worth it, or would it make more business sense to give them a salary raise? Even there, it's a nuanced question.
Fair enough, but
And
yeah,
see, that's not
okay.
me making judgments. It's not my place nor anyone else's place to make the judgments. It's something that should be left to the free market.
Mm-hmm.
That's my entire point. It
All
shouldn't be government interference to hamper the natural weighing and negotiating of the markets.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I understand where you're coming from. The thing is, like, with the French agricultural scenario, there you can't exactly fire them, can you?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it while we were talking in the back of my mind.
That's
And I
something
think that's a
else.
especially interesting case because it's not employees striking against employers, it's entrepreneurs striking against the government.
Yeah.
So does that even apply?
Yeah, you can't exactly fire them, and also they're the ones who feed the population.
Yeah.
So it's-
Bobby, as I said, it's nothing to do with workers' unions there, thinking about it. So we shouldn't have brought it up probably in the first place because it's, again, entrepreneurs striking against the government. That's what it is. And yeah, unions, none of that is relevant here. The only thing that's relevant is public disturbance laws and their interaction with free speech, but that's a completely different topic.
Oh, maybe unions are relevant. Are they unionized? I can only guess farmers are also unionized in France anyway.
Employers don't unionize. Only employees unionize.
But farmers, there has to be some farmers union in France. No, let me look this up. But what I'm trying to no, there's got.
It's probably a trade association, which is not the same thing as a union.
No, there is. I think there's a French farmers union. No, there is one. Wait, but is it a trade? You said a trade union is different slightly. Why?
Not a trade union. A trade. What did I say? Words escape me. But they're a trade association is different from a trade union. It's essentially like a union, but for employers. It's a political action front. That's what it usually is. So, for example, in the U.S., you have the the farmers, most of them, most small farmers are part of associations which pool money from their members, but not to do anything to do with employment, but to lobby in the government. So it's big employer-based lobbying groups. That's probably more relevant here. But again, different topic completely from the article we started with.
There's something called the FNSEA, which, I see that it's called a French farming union. So the reason why I think unions are still relevant here is because you have this, you still have this legal body, that kind of gives them this leverage to act in this kind of way, which I think is faulty. Yeah. So the fact that farmers can do this no one was arrested. Have there been any consequences to them? Do we know?
Not that I'm aware of. Macron looks very unhappy on TV.
Huh? That's kind of it. I guess in France it's like riots that cease all economic movement in country for a month. Everything's
that's
back
just
to
normal.
It's just normal there. And remember the whole yellow
I
jackets
told you
thing?
that time where we were stopped by the yellow jackets a couple years ago in France.
You didn't tell me, no. What was that?
So we were going by car on a holiday to France, and then we just ended up in a more than 10-kilometer long traffic stop that wasn't moving at all. And the reason for that traffic stop was pretty obvious. It was blocked by yellow jackets, and they were just patrolling back and forward, screaming slogans in French. And so I rolled down the window. I waved the nearest one in. I give him a big smile, shuffle about in my bag, give him a big box of cookies, tell him to stay strong. He smiles back at me and waves to us, so waves us out, and they make room for us, and we managed to skip that traffic jam because they were blocking all the nearby lanes, and they let us pass in the nearby lane.
Nice.
You just kind of think about things in these situations. People out there screaming on the street for the whole day will be hungry, and they will appreciate cookies.
And they will let you through. All right, should we move on? It's been almost 30 minutes, by the way. Should we
bloody hell.
Should we end now, or should we do this?
I mean, I don't think this Pfizer thing will be long. Let's see how it goes.
Okay, let's do it real quick.
Okay.
So,
Pfizer is sued by Texas over COVID vaccine claims. Pfizer has been sued by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who on Thursday accused the drug maker of misrepresenting the efficacy of its widely used COVID-19 vaccine. In a complaint filed in Lubbock County State Court, Paxton said it was misleading for Pfizer to claim its vaccine was 95% effective because it offered relative risk reduction for people who took it. I'm just going to read the last sentence as well, since it's important. Paxton said the claim was based on only 2 months of clinical trial data, and vaccine recipients' absolute risk reduction showed that the vaccine was just 85%. Wait, that's not 85%. Is that a typo? 0.85% efficient.
Damn.
That doesn't sound right.
Damn. Well, that's a really big lie.
0.85% effective.
That's a real big lie.
Relative risk reduction and absolute risk reduction. If I understand it right, this article is very brief, but if they're using the words in the conventional sense of the words, it would mean that what Pfizer said is that people who take this vaccine have a 95... let me do it with a specific example. So, say you have a pretty rare genetic disease that developing embryos have a 1% chance of getting. Right?
Yeah.
And you find a pill that reduces the chance of that genetic disease from 1% to 0.5%. So the relative risk reduction is 50% because they're half as likely to get it. But the absolute risk reduction is 0.5% because it was very unlikely in the first place. So do you see the difference?
Yeah. Yes.
So this is what it's arguing on. So that is actually really interesting because we all saw the 95% reduction number and we didn't think about it in terms of what it actually translates to in terms of absolute risk reduction. Which does make sense, no? Because the chance of dying from COVID was very low for healthy individuals. So 95% reduction will be a very small absolute reduction. But that to me doesn't sound misleading. Does it?
No, I think it is. Because they didn't make this distinction whatsoever between the 95% relative and 0.85% absolute risk reduction. So they just said
0.85% absolute sounds tiny as hell.
Well, yeah. They didn't specify what they meant, so it is misleading. Because it can be either case, but in most people, you don't think. Nobody thinks, oh, is this relative or is this absolute? Like that's
true.
Removed thing to think about. Unless someone brings it up, then you're like,
sure,
you're more or less.
I mean,
so
and the news sources I read back during the height of COVID, what I was said is that, which in light of this article doesn't seem to be an accurate representation at all. What news articles back in the day seem to be saying is that if you take the vaccine, it's 95% reduction, so there's only a 5% chance of you getting a serious COVID infection, which is dead wrong, turns out. Like nothing to do with the truth.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I don't have much to say about this at all.
Right. I mean, mental math. What's 0.85 over 0.95?
0.9-ish, kinda. Cause I don't know.
Yeah, you're very close. It's 0.89.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the chances of dying from COVID went from 0.89% to 0.05%.
Raw. Okay. Do you guys want to hear my Yes Minister thing?
Your Yes Minister rant.
Want to hear about the episode again? The reason why we canned the first take? No, I'm not gonna do that.
Oh dear.
No. Okay, just like a ending thing. You know what I've recently gotten into? I recently got into watching old political debates. Political debates are
interesting.
between prime ministers, incumbent prime ministers, and former prime ministers.
British ones.
I'll tell you about it later. I won't specify what kind, but I've been getting into it, and it's really, I just want to say that it's really interesting to dismantle the things that they're saying. So the language that they use, the rhetoric, the themes that they play on, and you can really like kind of see the arsenal that they have for themselves and that they're using. Like I want to get into that more. It's interesting. Mm-hmm. I like picking away at things people say.
The funniest person to watch in debates and just generally in speeches is the younger George Bush, because the poor guy doesn't seem to know what the hell is happening around him. Yeah, like there are so many times he messed up. You know what's one that comes to mind?
Mm-hmm.
So, delivering a serious speech about terrorism, and says that there are many foreign powers which never cease to think of ways to harm the US population. And key part, then adds, and neither do we. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, with the Patriot Act, he wasn't very wrong in that statement.
The what act?
It was enacted after 9/11. It was, I mean, to me, it's crazy that it passed. It was a law in the US that basically lets the National Security Services spy on all online activity of all US residents and citizens without a warrant.
Democracy moment.
Like, the extent of it was what the whole Snowden reveal was about.
Damn. Have you seen The Dictator? The Sacha
I have,
Baron
yeah.
Cohen movie?
Fantastic movie.
One of my favorite lines from any movie is from there. It's at the very end when he's giving that speech in front of that like UN congregation. You know which one I'm talking about?
Right. The one where he pours a bottle of piss.
No. Wait, really? Is it? Does he do that?
I believe so.
No, his democracy speech. Do you remember his democracy speech?
Oh, yeah, I do. Democracy has hairy armpits.
Yeah, that's the one I'm getting at. But that I think I love that. I love Sacha Baron Cohen. That was such a genius speech because he's basically highlighting why it's good to have an authoritarian regime, and then proceeds to list all the things the U.S. does anyway in their democracy. It was one of my
True.
I think that man is a comedic genius, and he's also really good. Like, he's such a good actor. There's this one Netflix show he has where he plays an Israeli spy in.
I've been meaning to watch it. I have it on my
it.
to watch list. Is it good?
It's good. It's so good. Like,
Right. I mean, I watched
cool.
The Dictator. Absolutely loved it. I'm not sure if you've watched any of the Ali G show.
I have. Oh, dude. Oh my god. It's
I actually
so funny.
The Ali G show is probably my favorite thing from him. It's hilarious. But yeah,
great.
Borat could not get through it. It's too
so hard.
Strong of a cringe comedy for me.
It's so potent, dude. It was so hard for me to get through as well.
Yeah.
I stuck it out, but dude, it's so rough. Like, and imagine being him. He stayed in character for all that.
Yeah.
And
I mean, a part of me desperately wants to try something like that.
There's one more thing. Do you know Bruno? I haven't seen it, but do you know Bruno?
I haven't seen Bruno, but I've read what Bruno's about, and I probably don't think I'd enjoy it.
There's this one part this is why I want to watch the film now. There's this one part in it where he's in Arkansas, and he gets and he organizes this event in the name of something he said is straight pride. So it attracts certain minded individuals, and he puts on.
By the way,
don't cut me off.
Continue.
He puts on an MMA fight, right? And then Sacha Baron Cohen comes out as this super southern looking, handlebar mustache, cowboy hat, sleeveless like shirt, jeans, boots, and he gets his guy in the ring, and they start fighting. And at one point Sacha Baron Cohen and this like middle-aged man that he was fighting, they start making out, and they start undressing each other, and you have the Titanic music playing, and you just see this crowd of certain minded individuals absolutely flip. And the thing is, later on he got arrested. The whole I think crew got arrested by police for inciting a riot. I so want to watch that movie now. It sounds so funny.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
which
I think
it does seem like a unreasonable arrest if it's what you describe it to be, because the criteria for inciting a riot is very high. You know the Brandenburg test?
No.
It's a very famous and very controversial case. It's basically set the criteria for what's inciting a riot. So there was a guy, last name Brandenburg, who was an actual honest-to-God KKK member.
Mm-hmm.
And what he did is he, at a KKK rally, as they were burning crosses, declared in front of cameras or lots of people watching, we're gonna start a war, we're gonna destroy the government and set a new order for America. He got arrested for that. And it's interesting that the ACLU, which started as a more of a Jewish defend fund, but then became just generally a free speech advocacy organization, decided to defend his case because they defend free speech, not the people who say dumb stuff themselves. And so that case went all the way to the Supreme Court, which ruled that he cannot be guilty of inciting a riot, even though, by the way, a riot happened directly a couple days after his speech, involving people who were at his speech. But what they said is that a riot must be likely to incite imminent lawless action and explicitly call for imminent lawless action. So, meaning you can call for lawless action so long as it's not imminent. So saying, let's go destroy the city right now is illegal, but saying you should go and destroy the city tomorrow is legal.
Really?
Yeah. Imminent lawless action. And
That's
it must be
fascinating.
directly resulted in. Yeah.
You know the trial of... Oh my god. What is it? You know that... There's this movie about it I watched. It's, What year did the... Give me a minute. It's America as well, but... It's a super famous trial. Let me just look up the
Chicago 7.
Yes. Chicago 7. Do you know what it's about?
Political show trial. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, but do you know the premise? You know,
yes,
roughly what happened?
Essentially, I mean, the problem with this trial was that it didn't have one clear premise. There was an anti-war protest in Chicago. Why did that take me a couple of seconds to remember, even if it's called like Chicago 7? Anyway, and what they try to do is they try to prosecute at the same time a lot of people who never met and never knew each other, as if they were working together.
Yeah.
So they had 2 yuppies. They had some local organizers.
Yuppies?
They had...
No.
I believe they were called... They might have been yippies. Yippies. Maybe.
Hippies.
Nope. Definitely with a Y. Let me check.
Okay.
Yippies, I think is the word.
You're thinking of Abby Hoffman and his friend. I don't remember his name.
They were yippies.
What is a yippie? What is...
Let me check.
Yuppie.
Yeah, yippie.
Else.
I'm absolutely right. He was a yippie.
Okay, my bad. What's a yippie?
Right, and what's his first name? Last name Seal. Bobby Seal, who was a Black Panther.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole idea of having them in the same trial is ridiculous. Because you generally can't try people unless try people together unless there's good reason to link them together. So you have to show that they did the same crime together. And these people never saw each other, never met, never talked.
Bobby Seale wasn't even there for the riots, fun fact. He just got...
Yeah.
You just got
Bobby Seale didn't have a lawyer for the whole trial.
Yeah.
It was it was unclear who was representing him. It was a monkey shit show. Because Bobby Seale was saying, this guy's my lawyer. This guy was sick in hospital, never showing up for trial. The judge was saying, oh, the other defendants' lawyers are your lawyers. Those lawyers were screaming, no, we do not represent Bobby Seale. It was hilarious.
Yeah, you should really watch the movie if you haven't seen the movie.
I've been thinking about it, yeah.
It's
more
so
than
good.
60 contempt of court charges were handed out.
Yeah, and in the end, thankfully, they reviewed the case and determined, and I think they completely rehauled the consequences.
Oh yeah, it was overturned
on
appeal.
Yeah, it was overturned on appeal. And I think the Judge Julius Hoffman, was found to be completely incompetent by a very high percentage of lawyers in New York after a while, after this trial. So
Yeah.
at least
But he can't fire a judge for being incompetent.
Yeah, at least the way the movie portrayed it, the guy was it was infuriating.
The guy was bad.
Whoever played him made him insufferable and infuriating to such a ridiculous degree.
I mean, he was insufferable and infuriating. So he actually in court had Bobby Seale gagged.
Oh yeah, he had him gagged and bound. Because he wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop telling him that he doesn't have a lawyer, that he doesn't have legal representation.
I mean, the whole thing is darkly hilarious. No?
It's a show trial. But
Yeah.
it's one of those show trials that's total kangaroo.
It's one of those show trials which delivers a good show.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we should end it there. This has been running long enough. Good night,
Honestly,
everyone.
I feel like our ramblings at the end were better than the headline stuff.
Yeah, I do too. I don't think we should do the headline stuff again. This is okay to try out.
This was okay to try out, yeah.
But,
we should just stick to my wonderful jokes.
Yes, of course. Alright, thank you for listening, everyone. Hope you weren't too
Right.
bored. I was
Promethean.onion@gmail.com. Our Instagram, we're starting the YouTubes. Hey, look at us.
Yes, look at us. Look at us go. We're trying to. This is, content creation's hard. Like, you watch YouTubers and stuff like, oh, this is so easy. No, it's difficult. So, good night, everyone. Thank you for listening. See you
Good night.
later.